Hi, I'm Dennis. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Dennis.
Thank you. I need to hear that. When I hear that, it makes me feel real comfortable. Of course, probably like most people that would have the opportunity to stand up and speak before a group, there's some fear with that. And when I say that my name is Dennis, I'm an alcoholic, and you say, hi, Dennis, I go, oh, it's like I'm home, and the fear goes away. Okay, what I'd like to talk about now is really my favorite topic, and it has to do with the promises, really the promises of AA. And that's what I'd like to talk about, maybe from a little different perspective, in terms of some of the things I think are going on with people. Now, why stay straight? If this is such a powerful disease, then something is going to need to happen to get us through that. Why do it? And that's what I'd like to talk about. In most of the time, I know in treatment, is devoted to, can we identify what this is like going from point A to point B? Does this fit? Does it fit for us? Again, does the shoe fit? Then if it fits, hopefully, we can wear the shoe and it becomes comfortable. That's what most of the time is spent on in, for example, a treatment setting. Now, what is it like to go from point C to point D, wherever point D is? What's happening here? And it doesn't really matter where point C is. It doesn't have to be here. It can be here, here, anywhere along here. Remember, point A is like being a little bit pregnant. I love to see somebody in their 20s come into treatment and graduate. It's a powerful time. And get a hold of the same kind of concepts that I didn't get a hold of till when I was 40. I sometimes say, oh God, if I could only got a hold of this when I was 21, 22, 23, if I could have only gotten this message then. And I know we say, don't look at the past, live for it, it's a day at a time and so forth, but every once in a while that goes through my mind. If only I could have. So, again, and somebody certainly in their 20s can be at point B down here, but it really doesn't matter where the bottom is. That's the important thing. What's going on between point C, wherever it happens to be, and point D is a learning experience. And we're unlearning the old stuff and learning the new stuff at the same time. And what keeps us straight are the payoffs in being straight. If you weren't seeing any payoffs in being straight and couldn't relate to any of that, why the hell be straight, right? So if you can't experience some of that, then the more of that we get, the more we want to. And the progression going up this way, remember we talked about this is not an even line, it's kind of jagged all over the place, and so is this. Sometimes it might seem like we're in the Sahara Desert, and you say, where the hell is all this growth stuff I've been hearing about? I seem to be stuck or something. And then something will come along in your life, something that will trigger an acceleration again. Something's happened to trigger that, to get you going again. I recall when I first sobered up and got out of treatment, I hadn't worked in a long time, and somebody suggested maybe I should get a job. I said, well, yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? I was deathly afraid of going home and sitting by the television set watching game shows again. So I got a job driving a cab. And I remember one night I was at the cab stand. It got to be about the time of the AA meeting. We had a policy that at that particular meeting, if we couldn't make it to the meeting, we needed to call and tell them that we wouldn't be there. That was the policy of the group. Good policy, I think. And then they take the roll, and so-and-so was there. Have we heard from so-and-so? And they say, yeah, he called me. He's okay. And so that's what we did. And I was sitting at the cab stand out at the airport. And I was fourth up, and I've been stuck there a long time. I was going to miss the meeting. I didn't want to invest another hour and a half in that cab stand. So I got out, and I went over to the payphone, and I called the squad, and I said, I won't be there tonight. whoever was on the other end of the phone says, "Oh, Dan, that's too bad, because," get this now, "because we really need you." Now, something happened to me. I went back to the cab and I sat down. Maybe I was feeling a little melancholy, not being to the meeting or something, and I just started to cry. Something triggered. Up until then, maybe I never in my dreams had thought that these people could need me. They seemed to have their shit together pretty well, and I didn't, right? So I was maybe comparing myself, but something occurred to me then that triggered that God, maybe they do need me. And I think that permitted some more growth. And it's like coming back from northern Minnesota, and we drove by the Legion Club up by the lake. I put a room addition on our cabin that was in foreclosure with my tip money from driving cab, if that makes any sense. We were coming back, and the kids were in the back of the station wagon, and they used to sit for hours outside that Legion Club and wait. And the first time I drove back by the Legion Club, the kids started to applaud. Yay! And I started to cry because I was getting in touch with the effect I had on those kids. They were applauding because I didn't stop. And then they said, "What are you crying about, Dad?" Some things come along that permit this growth again. And I was in touch with that was real. Now, what's happening in this whole process, I think, I have some ideas on anyway, and I'd like to, if I may, just discuss it. If we take this chart here, and this is a description of needs. And I didn't invent this. Somebody named Maslow did, and it's probably the most commonly used description of human need, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Big word. Okay. Down here we start with physical. Physical needs. Need to be safe. Safety. Maslow talks about the social need. Self-worth is a need. And a big one, big word called self-actualization. And this is again, a real commonly accepted description of what we all need. We're all different in this room. We're different in terms of our backgrounds, our experiences, our abilities, what we want. This doesn't have much to do with what we want. It's what we need. We're different people. When we can see the sameness in each other is when we can start to grow. But in this context, we're different except for what we need. We're all the same. We need the same things. It's what we share. When I'm using, I'm least likely to realize my needs kind of in this order. One of the first things that gets affected is my dignity. As the walls come in and I function in a real area, narrow area, my dignity gets affected. Now, if you talk to me about that, I'm going to reject you. I won't cop to it, but it's there. It's deep in my gut, and it's there. And all the times I've been telling you I'm sorry, and I won't do that again, has affected that dignity, and my self-worth is affected early on, and it increases because it doesn't stop there. And it keeps happening over and over again, and nothing changes. My social life, what social life I have, my friends, it turns out aren't really friends anyway. They're drinking buddies, using buddies for me. And that's my social event. Bev used to say, how come nobody comes over to see us anymore? I'd say, oh, bullshit, we got a lot of friends. I had some drinking buddies. Nobody wanted to hang out with us. So this is my social life, people I'm using with. Fear. Again, fear, I believe, is the number one feeling problem of most people who are chemically dependent. It's the opposite of the need to be safe and secure. It's fear. Just the opposite. Here's where I live. I live in fear. I live in fear that you won't like me, that I won't be accepted. I live in fear of dying. One time I announced to the kids that I'm going to die. Kids, little kids, they started to cry. Oh, you're not going to die, Dad. Yep, I'm going to die. Where did that come from? Every area of my life. Now, the basic need, food, shelter, and clothing, of course. If my wife didn't work, where would I get my food, shelter, and clothing? A basic need. Now, these needs can be used in other contexts as well. For example, work. Why work? Anybody? Why? What's in it to work? Why do you do it? Why do you want to do it? Survive. That's here, right? To survive, food, shelter, clothing. Can you get any other need met out of what you do for a living? Can you? Is there any benefit? You know, if a boss just says, God, you're doing a great job, you're afraid about being fired, if a boss said to me, Dennis, I want to talk to you on Monday morning, and it was Friday afternoon, what the hell do you think my weekend was like? You know, geez, what's the boss want now? You know, paranoia. You cocaine people don't have a corner on paranoia. Us alcoholics have that too, you know, right? Paranoia. Some things never change. They're getting a letter from a registered letter on a Friday afternoon, registered. Can't get it till Monday morning, right? Wonder what that's about now. Right? Okay. But food, shelter, clothing. Eventually I need to rely on somebody else to take care of me. In my case, it was my wife. Or else I would have been somewhere else getting somebody to take care of me. Now, I believe it's like an elevator. We get off on the second floor, the first floor, or the main floor, and the basement. It doesn't matter where we get off this elevator. Anywhere along here. In my case, I got back on the elevator down here, and I got a job driving a cab. And I remember I took the cab downtown, and I picked up a woman at the department store, and she got in the cab, and she said, told me where she was going. I brought her home, and she had some packages, and she got out. She paid the cab fare, and she gave me 35 cents, 35-cent tip. And I remember sitting there looking at that 35 cents, and I started to cry. I felt good. I wasn't crying because I suppose if she would have looked out, she'd say, I didn't tip that guy enough or something, right? But I felt good about making some money. And when this starts to come back, my wife had left the curfew off me. I could stay out past 6:30 at night. Isn't that neat? And I started to feel more secure in my relationships, in every other area of my life, but this started to come back first. And I felt more secure. But I was doing something, I was contributing. And then that had an effect on the self-worth, right? So everything got affected. Now, as the fear starts to go away, to diminish a little bit, the security starts to come in. I start to feel secure. And why is that happening? It's happening because I'm sober and I'm working my program. Not just sober and working my program, which is going to some meetings and doing what I needed to do. I got my 3-month medallion, and Bev said, oh, God, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. 3 months. A guy in AA had 22 years or something, said, hey, hang in there. It gets a lot easier and a lot better, too. You're just getting started. 3 months, shit. He said, but keep coming. You know, I didn't know what he meant by that. I said, well, thanks. You know, I will. I'll keep coming. Social. Every single area of the fear that had been affecting my life in terms of relationships, in terms of financial, in terms of diet and my physical well-being, in terms of job or career, all of that started to go away. I took one day and I went around and talked to all the bill collectors. There was a lot of them. It took me a whole day. And I went around and talked to these bill collectors and told them that we had our furniture financed at 3 different finance companies and all that. I went to everybody and I said, hey, I just got out of treatment. You know, what do I expect them to say? Hey, good for you. We're really happy. I say, when are you going to pay your money you owe us? Well, The reason I came is to tell you I'm making the effort. I'm just responsible for the effort, I'm saying to myself, and not the outcome. So I need to make this effort today. When that day was done, I felt so good. We could answer our phone again now without, well, I take that back. The phone had been disconnected for a while, too, and the only one I couldn't reason with is the phone company. I'd still resent the phone company to this day. Right? But the damn phone company, right? But anyway, we came out of that. We started to feel more secure financially. What a great feeling. I knew there was a difference. I could feel it. And then I went to my AA meeting to know that I was feeling, what I was feeling was real, because other people are telling me they were feeling the same thing. So I knew it wasn't bullshit, it was real. Social. We all need, another word for this, I could use the AA fellowship in my case. I needed AA, and this whole thing too has to do with intimacy. And intimacy need. I need to be physically close and emotionally open with other people. I started going to AA, and did I learn some lessons? I went in there and I was intimidated by it. All these guys sitting around. I went to an all-men's group, and these guys sitting around, and I see them hugging each other and stuff, and laughing. I went in there, I parked the cab outside and went in and sat down and kept my mouth shut and listened. And there's a guy sitting on the end of the couch. His name is Bobby. And I'd like to tell you about Bobby. He intimidated me too. But he came up to me after the meeting and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Dennis." And he said, "Keep coming, Dennis." He said, "I wish you would have said some more. Tell us who you were or something." He didn't say anything. The next time, you come next week and tell us who you are, will you? I said, "Yeah, okay, Bobby. Yeah. Good, we'll see you." Oh, he said, "Before I go, here's a little book." It was a book on acceptance. He said, "Read this." I said, "Yeah, okay." All right. Did I go back the next week? Yeah, there was an attraction there. And I went back and I kept going back. And I found some things that I'd never found in my life. Never, ever experienced in my life. When I was, I don't know how long I was sober, but Bobby came to see me one morning, and he said, "Den," he said, "you got a cup of coffee?" I said, "Yeah, Bobby." We gave each other a hug. And he said, "I'm sober 10 years today. It's my anniversary, and I've taken the whole day off, and I'm going around seeing everybody I love, and I'm starting with you, you fat son of a bitch, first, and telling you how much you meant to me." Wow. Right? And it dawned on me after Bobby left, after he left, that he was the first man in my life to ever tell me he loved me. I was 40 years old. It was at an AA meeting, about my third or fourth meeting. And by then I was talking more, and they invited me to go out for ribs with them at Rudolph's. And I did that and so forth. And he said, "God, Dan, I got to tell you something." I said, "What, Bobby?" He said, "Man," he said, "I got to tell you." I asked him to be my sponsor. And he said, "I got to tell you, I really love you." Do you think I could say, "I love you too, Bobby"? No, I couldn't say that. I hadn't learned that yet, and I hadn't unlearned the old stuff. I couldn't say, "Yeah, Bobby, I love you too, man." I couldn't do that. A week later, he comes up, and I knew somebody's going to hug me sooner or later, right? Somebody's going to lay their hands on me and hug me. And he came up and he said, "Oh, Dan, how you doing?" "Good." And he kept getting closer to me, and I kept going like this, right? And he caught up with me, and he said, "Come here, you son of a bitch." And he put his arms around me, and he said, "God, I love you, man." "Oh, I love you." I thought, "Jeez, if I would..." You know, this guy's one of the most macho guys I knew. He owned a string of 5 garbage trucks, you know. And it would be like hugging that podium over there. Because I stood there with my hand, I never forget the feeling. I stood there with my hands at my side, and I'm going, "Oof, yeah," you know. Ooh. Yeah. But I had to learn that also. I hadn't learned that yet, that was okay. The people in AA had a way of telling me they loved me before I loved myself. There's some promises, and that there's some promises in AA, and if somebody here can volunteer to read the promises, I think they're very appropriate in terms of what I'm talking about here. This is the AA Big Book, and starting on page 83 are some promises, and I think it really relates to what we're talking about here. Thank you.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and the economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you. That word always materialize for us if we only work for them. I remember the first time I heard that and I doubted that. I said, well, nothing's always, right? That's quite a statement. Think about those promises, I think maybe in the context of what we're talking about here. Those were written many years ago, and they're as true today as they were when they were written. I got a call this morning from my son John. John is recovering, has 4 years of sobriety. Called up, said, Dad, hi John, how you doing? I hadn't heard from you for a while. How's it going? He said, just great, Dad. I called to tell you that we just got a telephone. I said, all right, got a telephone. Yeah. I said, that's wonderful. And he's been sober 4 years. Got a telephone. And I said, that's great, John. He said, everything is great. Everything is wonderful. Now I got a telephone. I'm working full time. He's got this job driving over-the-road truck. And I said, you know, John, I couldn't be more proud of you if you're President of the United States, what you're doing for your family and yourself. God, I'm proud of you. And I remembered when I talked to John that it was 5 years. I applied for a loan to buy a car, a new car. And they said, your financing was approved. I said, really? God, really? It was approved. And sometimes we have expectations that things are going to change right away. Sometimes more slowly, sometimes more quickly. My son John calls me on his dry date in January every year, just gets back from his AA meeting. When he was sober 1 year, he called up and said, Dad, I just got my 1 year medallion. I said, oh, God, I'm proud of you. And he said, Dad, I wouldn't have got this if it weren't for you. And I said, no, John, you're the one that did it. I didn't do it. You're the one that did it. No, you're not listening to me, Dad. He said, you're an inspiration in my life, and I need to tell you that. It's good hearing from him today. This is where it's at. Treatment is only a foothold. I need to get around some people like me. I need to get around some people that can put their arms around me and hug me. And it's neat. Now, when all this is happening, the people are telling me they love me before I love myself, my dignity comes back. John reminded me today of when I was sober for 5 years. He said, Dad, you remember when you were sober 5 years? He said, I'm going to have 5 years, and you remember when you were sober? I said, you bet I do. He said, Ma, I had that big party for you, and all those people came. There was 150 people came to our house, and these are all people that we'd met in the last 5 years in the program. God, that was neat. Did I need it? Yeah. Boy, I needed that. The doorbell would ring and the dog would bark and there'd be somebody else with a serenity plaque. You know, We're happy for you. It's your 5 years. Here's a Serenity Prayer plaque. I had a whole stack of Serenity Prayer plaques. And then I gave them away as gifts. I didn't know what to do with all of them. But it was neat. And when the last of those people had left that night and said goodbye to all of them, and it was such a beautiful day, and I told Bev, don't have a party for me, because I'm only doing what I should have been doing all along anyway. And she did. She had the party. And I sat there and I just broke down. I need it. When I was sober 10 years, she had another party. All these people and some more came. I think maybe as a sign of my growth or something, I cried when they were all there. It was so neat. My sponsor gave me my 10-year medallion. A silver one yet. Yeah, I value that. When we don't tell somebody that we're sober for 1 week or 30 days or 90 days or 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, when we don't tell people that, we not only deprive ourselves, but we deprive them. And I've got to see you doing it or I couldn't do it. The fellowship of AA saved my life and gave me dignity and self-worth and made all this possible for me. And you can say, oh, you did it, Dennis. No, I didn't do it. No. There's something else working here. Things don't happen by accident, and I don't believe that. I get to see this happening and feel it happening for myself. I know it's true. I get to see it happening for people, some of you that are in treatment, and I can see it happening right away. And when you graduate, those are powerful times. You're getting your needs met. And I get to see that. I get to see it with my friends in AA. People that include us in what they're doing. We're going to a movie. Come on along. Yeah. Some friend said, we're going to Hawaii on our anniversary. Come on along. Neat stuff. And I get to see that with people that I'm recovering with. And I get to see it especially in my own family. I mentioned John. God, I'm proud of him. And my brother Ernie. He was driving around in a pickup truck with a bumper sticker that said even hockey pucks go faster than 55 miles an hour, passing people on the shoulder. I thought, ain't no way in hell Ernie's ever going to get sober. This is an impossible case, right? What am I doing, playing God or something? Read page 60 of the big book. Yeah, something working in his life too, and he's sober for, 15 years or something now. I'm proud of him. My sister Karen was on Quaaludes. She's sober. People in our family, my son John that I mentioned, my wife Bev. I was against her going to treatment. What her sobriety did for our relationship, really powerful. Talk about intimacy. We need to be close with other people. Being sober permits us to do that and work in our program. It's a tremendous need we have. Babies have it. We all need it just because we're not babies anymore. We need it just as much as babies do. To be held, and to be close with someone else. Self-worth? Yeah. Dignity? Yes. And I get to see it in people in my own family. My son Peter. There was a kid, I thought, no way could Peter ever get sober. Just like Ernie, no ways. He hadn't worked in 5 years. I'd go fishing with him. He'd be laying on the living room floor from the night before, all kinds of drugs and so forth. And I'll tell you the story quickly. I was going fishing with the grandkids. And I sent one of them into the bar to tell Peter we were going fishing, ice fishing. And he came out from the bar and he said, how you doing, man? Pissed me off. I said, okay, how you doing? Beautiful, man. Everything is just beautiful. I said, no, it isn't. Your life is a waste. Your life is a waste and you're dying and you don't know it. And I'm ashamed of you. See, I never said that before to him. Didn't want to drive him away. And it's sometimes easier to deny someone else's problems than it is our own. He came around, sat next to me in the front seat of the car, and he put his arms around me, started to cry. He said, I know I'm screwed up. And I couldn't say. I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say. I said, I'll talk to you when you're sober. Well, to make a long story short, he went through treatment and got sobriety. And it was wonderful. And his wife, Patsy, had the same dry date. Powerful stuff. I could look in the eyes of my own grandchildren, and I could see my own childhood. I looked at them, and I could see the hollow look. I could see they were dirty. I could see they were afraid. And I could see they were taking care of each other. And I could see what was happening in their life, and it broke my heart. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, to be able to look back at things, And it broke my heart to see that. He was looking through a mirror at my own childhood. God, I was... And they got sobriety. They both had the same dry date. Till a couple of years later. And my grandson, P.T., was down on the dock. We were all up at the lake, and he wasn't playing with the rest of the kids. And I went down and I said, what's the matter, P.T.? Because he looked like he used to look. And he said, well, Grandpa, my mom's drinking again. I said, I know, P.T. I could tell. Right away. Want to see the effect? Talk to the kids. Thank God she's sober today. Things are wonderful. And they're getting their needs met. And I know this is what's happening in their life. I know it. I can see it. And I could be part of it. The most powerful thing I ever heard in my life, probably will never hear anything that will equal this. I'll never forget it. Came from my grandson, P.T., when he was 5 years old. It was their first Christmas of being sober. And I went up with some presents. And I was sitting there watching Johnny Carson one night when I got there. P.T. had waited up for me. And he was sitting on my lap with his pajamas on. And he said, guess what, Grandpa? And I said, what, P.T.? And he said, my mom and dad don't drink no more. Fine. And then he said, why are you crying, Grandpa? Powerful. Bethany, their 8-year-old, we drive by the Legion Club, we drive by the town hall, and she says, 5 miles later, you know what, Dad? He says, what? She said, there's more cars at the AA Club tonight than there was at Legion Club. Where'd that come from, right? Just talk to the kids. Just talk to the kids and see the effect on the kids. What it was like and what it is now. Powerful stuff. Powerful. Finally, the self-actualization. What's this about? I think it's a culmination of things for those of us that are recovering. I think that there's a lot goes into this. Certainly, what goes into it is the fact that we're not in the shit bag anymore. And all those emotions, those negative emotions, almost all of those, there are some that there is no positive side of, or no other. For example, despair. That's kind of a dead-end street. You can't say much positive on the other side of despair or shame. But the guilt turns to what? Responsibility? All those negative emotions, the opposite happens with these. The resentments turns to what? Instead of resentful, get peace and acceptance and so forth. So all of the negative stuff changes, and we become new people. We live two different lives, literally. So what's happening in here is our needs are getting met in terms of we're not in the shitbag anymore. We have acceptance. We have peace. We have serenity. We are responsible. I know 3 people that I think kind of were there. Maslow says most people don't function there all the time. One guy was a Native American guy, Harold S. Other 2 people were a couple, Stu and Alice. Great people. Harold was run over by a truck, was in a nursing home, real small allowance, in a wheelchair, didn't have long to live. Chronic, late stage, an alcoholic, was doing more 12-step work out of that wheelchair than anybody I've ever met, working in acute detoxes. And you say to him, and he was incontinent. You'd be around him, you'd maybe have to set some papers out or something, or whatever. And you'd say to him, Harold, how you doing today? And he'd look at you and he'd say, I'm doing just fine. I'm doing really good. Yeah. And there's no question about it, he was. He was. It's almost like he peaked before he got home. Stu and Alice, my God, Stu was 85 years old and had sobered up when he was 50 in AA. Did more 12-step work. Alice died last year, and she wanted to get her 40-year medallion before she died. And she did. She got her 40-year medallion, and she said, I'm ready to join Stu now. I just wanted to get this so bad. We went to their house to see them. A couple, 2, 3 times. I need to be around people like that. Here they're living in an old trailer house and the wind blowing through it and terrible conditions. And out outside at the road there was a lane going in. They had a coffee cup painted, Stu and Alice, welcome. And in the bottom there they had the AA logo. Just to go and hang out with those people was a natural high for me. I need to see people like that. I need to hang out with people like that and be around people like that. And what they were doing, all those people were doing, you know what they were doing? They were involved. There were 12-steppers, period. Maybe not formal 12 steps or whatever that is, but they were involved with other people. They didn't miss their meetings. You say, well, these people must have had it made or something. You don't need meetings anymore. No. They needed meetings, and they were there. And they were there for other people. And they reached out and they helped, and that's certainly part of this. And then I look on the other side, and I can't help, again, but thinking of people like my mother, who died drunk at age 70. You say, well, she was 70. It's not the dying anyway. It's 25 years of her life that was shit. That was shit. It's sad. And I believe, as Father Martin says, he says, no alcoholic dies that dies in vain. I believe that. Just the fact I can tell you about that. It's not the dying anyway. And somehow I can get through the death of my grandson last year, and that it was an alcohol-related death, and accept that and move on, and maybe learn something from that. Maybe. And I believe I have. And get on with it. And there's one need missing in all of these needs, I think, that Maslow talks about, and it's the spiritual need. It's the one need that I don't believe there's any limit to. Maybe our relationship can be only so good. Maybe we can only have so much money. One thing in common with Stu and Alice and Harold is they didn't have any money. These people were broke. Does that have anything to do with what we have or how much money? No. It's something else. And the spiritual need. We all have, I believe, a spiritual need. It's got to make a difference that we've been through here, we passed through. I don't mean through this place or anything. I mean through life. It's got to make a difference. It's a need that we have, that we didn't count as a minus. We're either going forward or going backward, that we counted for something. It doesn't matter. I see these signs along the road of people go and pick up cans and stuff alongside the road, you know, these blue signs. These people make a difference. It doesn't matter. We're doing something. And in the spiritual need, it seems to me that people that I know that have been around AA any length of time, I don't know of anybody that's been working their program and around any length of time that does not have a different spiritual awareness than they had before. I've never seen it. Some people don't talk about it much, some do. But it's there. It's there that they have grown spiritually. We talk about the higher power concept, and that's fine. Whether your higher power is God, you will have a different connection with God, and you will know that God is love. If your connection, higher power, is Jesus Christ, you will see yourself become more Christ-like and be an instrument. If your higher power is the Great Spirit, you will have a different connection with the Great Spirit. If your higher power is your group and AA and your sponsor, that will also be a spiritual experience for you. And that's the natural high. If your higher power is all of these things, you will experience a new spiritual awareness that you have never experienced before. The promises, and that's what it means. I don't know of anyone that's been around any length of time in AA that I've never seen anybody that this is not true for. Again, there's no way you can read about it and know it, or hear somebody like me talk about it and know it. The only way that you can do that is to live it. And the only way you can do that, if you're chemically dependent, is to get straight and start working your program. And you will know that your sobriety is not by accident, that there's a meaning and purpose for it. You will know that. There's no question about that. Thanks very much for listening.